They thought no one would stop them from beating a disabled veteran in the park, until the roar of motorcycle engines shattered the night and the Hells Angels rolled in. But what happened when these bikers confronted the attackers that left everyone speechless? The sun drops behind the trees at Lincoln Park, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple that slowly fade to deep blue. It's that time of evening when the world seems to pause between day and night, when shadows grow longer and the air turns cooler against your skin. The playground equipment sits empty now, the swings hanging motionless on their chains, no more children laughing or running across the grass. Most families have gone home for dinner, leaving behind only the quiet sounds of evening. Birds settling into branches, distant car horns from the street beyond the trees. The soft rustle of leaves dancing in the gentle breeze. The park benches line the main walking path, their wooden slats worn smooth by years of use, and the street lamps flicker on one by one, casting pools of yellow light that push back against the growing darkness. It's peaceful here, the kind of place where people come to think or rest, or simply watch the world go by. But tonight, that peace is about to shatter. Near the center of the park, on a bench beneath an old oak tree, sits Robert Martinez. His gray hair is cut short, military style, though those days are long behind him now. His face tells stories without words, deep lines around his eyes, a scar along his left cheek, skin weathered by sun and time, and things most people never have to see. He wears a dark green jacket, the kind that's seen better days, with patches sewn onto the shoulders. One patch shows an eagle and the words, Operation Desert Storm, stitched in gold thread. Another simply reads, U.S. Army Veteran. His right leg extends stiffly in front of him, the knee unable to bend properly anymore. A simple wooden cane leans against the bench beside him, within easy reach, its handle smooth from constant use. Robert comes here most evenings when the weather is good. It's quieter than his small apartment, and he likes watching the sky change colors. It reminds him of better times, of when his body worked the way it should, of when he felt like he mattered. He doesn't notice them at first, the group of 5 young men walking down the path toward him. They're loud, their voices carrying across the empty grass, laughing about something on one of their phones. They look like they're in their early 20s, wearing expensive sneakers and designer hoodies, the kind of clothes that cost more than Robert's monthly veteran benefits check. One of them has a backwards baseball cap. Another wears gold chains that catch the lamplight. They're not from this neighborhood, Robert can tell. They have that look of people who've never had to struggle for anything, who've never known what it means to sacrifice. As they get closer, one of them, the tallest with the baseball cap, notices Robert sitting alone. He says something to his friends that Robert can't quite hear, and they all turn to look. Their laughter changes then, becomes something uglier, meaner. Robert's stomach tightens. He knows that sound. He's heard it before. "Hey, look at this guy," the tall one says loudly, pointing at Robert like he's some kind of attraction. "Just sitting here all by himself." They move closer, forming a loose circle around the bench. Robert's hand instinctively moves toward his cane, but he doesn't pick it up yet. He keeps his eyes forward, hoping they'll lose interest and move on. But they don't. "You deaf, old man?" another one asks, stepping into Robert's line of sight. This one has a thin mustache and eyes that seem to find everything funny. "My friend asked you a question." Robert finally looks up at them, his expression calm but tired. "I'm not bothering anyone," he says quietly, "just enjoying the evening." His voice carries the slight rasp of someone who doesn't talk much anymore, who's gotten used to being alone. "Oh, he speaks," the one with the gold chains announces, and they all laugh again. The sound echoes across the empty park, harsh and grating. "What's with the leg, man? Can't you stand up? Show some respect when people are talking to you." Robert's jaw tightens, but he doesn't respond. He's learned over the years that engaging with people like this only makes things worse. The best strategy is to wait them out, to be so boring they eventually leave. But something about his silence seems to irritate them more. The tall one with the baseball cap steps forward and kicks Robert's cane. It falls with a sharp clatter against the concrete path, rolling a few feet away. "Oops," he says with a smirk. "Looks like you dropped something." The air feels heavier now, thick with tension. Robert stares at his cane lying on the ground, just out of reach. His heart beats faster in his chest, and he can feel the old familiar tightness in his throat. Not fear exactly, but the weight of helplessness, of being at the mercy of people who enjoy causing pain. The park suddenly feels very empty, very isolated. The nearest houses are too far away, hidden behind trees. The street is at least 200 yards distant. No one is walking their dog. No cars are passing by. It's just Robert and these 5 young men who've decided he's their entertainment for the evening. One of them shoves Robert's shoulder, not hard enough to knock him off the bench, but hard enough to make his body rock sideways. "What's wrong?" the guy asks mockingly. "Can't fight back? Some soldier you are." Robert's hands grip the edge of the bench, his knuckles turning white. Inside his chest, his heart pounds like a drum, but outwardly he remains still. His face a mask of forced calm. He's been in worse situations before, in deserts on the other side of the world, in places where danger was real and immediate. But somehow this feels different. This is his home, his safe place, and these strangers are taking even that away from him. The smell of fresh-cut grass fills his nose, mixing with the scent of someone's cologne, too strong and chemical. A mosquito buzzes near his ear. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barks twice and then goes silent. The young men close in tighter, their circle shrinking, their voices growing bolder. And Robert Martinez, disabled veteran who served his country with honor, who sacrificed his body for people he never met, sits alone on that bench, wondering if anyone in the world even knows he exists. Wondering if anyone would care if they did. The sky continues to darken above him, stars beginning to appear like tiny pinpricks of light in an infinite ocean of black, indifferent and cold, and impossibly far away. Robert's mind flashes back without warning, the way it sometimes does when stress pushes too hard against old memories. For just a moment, he's not on this park bench anymore. He's 23 years old again, standing in desert sand that stretches endlessly in every direction, the sun beating down so hot it makes the air shimmer and dance. He remembers the weight of his rifle in his hands, the trust between him and the soldiers beside him, the unshakable belief that they were doing something important, something that mattered. He remembers feeling strong then, feeling needed, feeling like he belonged to something bigger than himself. That version of Robert could run 5 miles in full gear without breaking a sweat. That version could do 100 push-ups before breakfast. That version never imagined he'd end up here, alone and vulnerable, unable to even stand up properly to defend himself. The memory shatters when someone kicks dirt onto his shoes. "You paying attention?" the one with the mustache demands, leaning down so his face is only inches from Robert's. His breath smells like energy drinks and cigarettes. "We're talking to you." Robert blinks and focuses on the present moment, on the very real danger surrounding him. His cane is still on the ground several feet away, might as well be a mile for all the good it does him. Without it, standing up becomes a difficult and slow process, one that would leave him even more exposed and off balance. His bad leg throbs with a dull ache that never really goes away, a constant reminder of the roadside bomb that changed everything 12 years ago. He was helping pull wounded soldiers from a damaged vehicle when the second explosion hit. He remembers the flash of light, the deafening roar, and then waking up 3 days later in a military hospital with doctors telling him he was lucky to be alive. Lucky. The word still tastes bitter in his mouth. "Please," Robert says quietly, keeping his voice steady even though his pulse is racing. "I don't want any trouble. Just let me be." The tall one with the baseball cap laughs and mimics his voice in a cruel, whining tone. "Please, I don't want any trouble," he repeats while his friends snicker. "What are you going to do about it if we don't leave? Call the cops? By the time they get here, we'll be long gone." He's right, and they all know it. Robert's phone is in his jacket pocket, but reaching for it would require movement these young men might interpret as threatening, might use as an excuse to escalate things further. The park stretches around them in all directions, empty grass and silent trees offering no help, no witnesses, no salvation. A cool breeze picks up, carrying the scent of someone's barbecue from a backyard somewhere beyond the tree line. Normal people doing normal things, completely unaware that just a few hundred yards away, a man who fought for their freedom is being tormented for entertainment. One of them, a shorter guy with a tattoo creeping up his neck, picks up Robert's cane and examines it like it's some kind of toy. "This thing looks old," he says, running his fingers along the wood. "Probably worth nothing, just like him." He swings it through the air a few times, making whooshing sounds, and his friends laugh. Robert watches his cane, the one he's used every single day for the past decade, the one his daughter gave him after she saved up money from her part-time job, the one with her name carved into the handle where no one else can see it, being treated like garbage. That cane represents more than just mobility. It represents the people who still care about him, the connections that keep him tethered to this world when everything else feels like it's slipping away. Amanda, his daughter, is the only family he has left. She calls him every Sunday without fail, visits twice a month even though she lives an hour away with her own family now. She worries about him constantly, always asking if he needs anything, if he's eating right, if he's taking his medications. He never tells her about moments like this, never mentions the times when strangers make him feel small and worthless. He doesn't want her to worry more than she already does. "Come on, stand up," the tall one commands, grabbing Robert's jacket and trying to pull him to his feet. Robert's leg won't cooperate, the damaged muscles and torn ligaments unable to support his weight properly without the cane for balance. He starts to rise awkwardly, his body tilted wrong, and then another one of them shoves him back down hard. Robert lands heavily on the bench, pain shooting through his hip and spine. "Wow, you really are useless," someone says, and the laughter grows louder, more confident. They're feeding off each other now, each one trying to be crueler than the last, competing for the approval of the group. This is what people become when they think no one is watching, Robert thinks. This is what happens when there are no consequences, no accountability, no force to push back against the darkness. The sky above has turned almost completely dark now, stars fully visible in the gaps between street lamp halos. The temperature has dropped at least 10 degrees since sunset, and Robert can see his breath forming small clouds in the air when he exhales. His hands are shaking slightly, partly from adrenaline, partly from the effort of holding himself together, of not breaking down in front of these people who would only enjoy his pain more. He thinks about his medals tucked away in a drawer at home, the certificates and commendations gathering dust because he has no one to show them to, nowhere to display them. He thinks about the promises the recruiter made when he was 18 years old. Serve your country, make a difference, earn respect, build a future. He thinks about how none of those promises mentioned ending up old and broken and alone, while strangers use him as a punching bag for their amusement. The one with the gold chains steps forward and actually spits on the ground near Robert's feet. "People like you are pathetic," he says with genuine disgust in his voice. "Taking up space, wasting air, contributing nothing." Robert closes his eyes for just a second, trying to center himself, trying to remember that these words come from ignorance, from people who've never sacrificed anything for anyone. But knowledge doesn't make the words hurt less. They still sink in like knives. Still find the vulnerable places inside where doubt and despair already live. The isolation feels crushing now, absolute. No one knows he's here. No one is coming. This is just how things are for people like him. Invisible, forgotten, disposable. The young men continue their harassment, their voices blending together into a wall of cruelty that seems to fill the entire park. And then, cutting through it all like a blade through silk, comes a sound that changes everything. A low, distant rumble that seems to rise up from the earth itself, growing steadily louder with each passing second. At first, the sound is so low and distant that Robert thinks he might be imagining it, some trick of his desperate mind conjuring rescue that isn't real. But the rumble grows louder, deeper, more concrete with every heartbeat. It's not thunder. The sky is clear, stars sharp and bright overhead. It's not traffic from the distant highway. This sound has rhythm, has purpose, has power behind it that you can feel in your chest before your ears fully register what they're hearing. The young men pause their taunting, confusion flickering across their faces as they glance around, trying to identify the source. The vibration seems to come from everywhere at once, rising up through the ground beneath their feet, making small pebbles on the pathway dance and skip. Robert knows this sound. He recognizes it from his youth, from the days before military service when he used to ride, when freedom meant open roads and wind in his face and a motorcycle engine roaring between his legs. The rumble becomes a roar. Multiple engines harmonizing together in a symphony of raw, mechanical force. Then the headlights appear, not just one or two, but a whole line of them cutting through the darkness at the park's entrance, bright white beams that sweep across the grass and trees like searchlights. The motorcycles roll in formation, moving with military precision down the main path, chrome and steel gleaming under the street lamps. 8 bikes, maybe 10. It's hard to count them all as they approach. They're not speeding, not racing. They're moving deliberately, slowly, with the kind of controlled power that's somehow more intimidating than reckless speed. The sound is overwhelming now, drowning out everything else, filling the entire park with noise that you feel in your bones, in your teeth, in the hollow spaces of your chest. It's the kind of sound that demands attention, that makes people stop and take notice whether they want to or not. The young men freeze, their bravado evaporating like morning mist under sun. The tall one with the baseball cap takes an involuntary step backward. The one holding Robert's cane suddenly doesn't seem to know what to do with it, his hand dropping to his side. They've gone from predators to prey in the span of seconds, and the shift is visible in every tense line of their bodies, every nervous glance they exchange. The motorcycles form a wide semicircle around the bench where Robert sits, engines still running, creating a wall of sound and steel and intentional presence. These aren't sport bikes or casual weekend riders. These are heavy cruisers, the kind built for long distances and serious riders. And the men sitting on them aren't playing dress-up. They wear leather vests over leather jackets, patches covering the backs and fronts, symbols and words that carry weight and meaning. Even in the dim light, Robert can make out the distinctive skull logo, the flames, the words, Hell's Angels, arched across broad shoulders. The lead rider cuts his engine first, and one by one the others follow until silence rushes back into the space like water filling a void. The quiet, after all that noise, feels almost physical, pressing against eardrums that are still ringing. The lead biker swings his leg over his machine and stands, boots hitting the pavement with solid thuds that echo in the new stillness. He's a big man, probably 6'3", with a thick gray beard that hangs down to his chest and arms covered in faded tattoos that speak of decades lived hard. His eyes, though, his eyes are sharp and clear and completely focused on the scene before him. He surveys the situation with the practiced assessment of someone who's seen every kind of trouble there is and knows exactly what he's looking at. His gaze moves from the 5 young men to Robert sitting on the bench, to the cane lying on the ground several feet away, and back to the young men. No one speaks. The entire park holds its breath. 2 more bikers dismount and move to flank the leader, creating a line of leather and muscle and silent authority. One of them is a woman, her dark hair streaked with silver and pulled back tight, her expression harder than concrete. The other is younger, maybe in his 30s, with a scarred face that suggests he's no stranger to violence. They don't rush forward. They don't shout threats. They simply stand there, present and watchful, and somehow that measured stillness is more frightening than any aggressive display could be. The young man with the gold chains opens his mouth like he's going to say something, but no words come out. The tall one with the baseball cap has gone pale, his earlier confidence completely shattered. These aren't elderly people they can push around. These aren't isolated victims with no one to defend them. These are men and women who've spent their lives earning respect the hard way, who understand both violence and the discipline to control it. The lead biker finally moves, walking with slow, measured steps toward the cane lying on the concrete. He bends down, picks it up, examines it with careful attention like it's something precious. His thick fingers trace along the carved wood, and for a moment his expression softens with something that might be recognition or memory. Then he turns and walks to Robert, extending the cane with both hands, an offering given with dignity. "This belongs to you, brother," he says, and his voice is surprisingly gentle, a low rumble that carries authority without aggression. Robert takes the cane with trembling hands, his fingers wrapping around the familiar wood, and something breaks loose in his chest. Not tears, not yet, but a relief so profound it's almost painful. "Thank you," he manages to say, his voice barely above a whisper. The biker nods once, then turns his attention back to the 5 young men who are now backing away slowly, trying to create distance without making any sudden movements. "You boys got something you need to say?" the lead biker asks, and though his tone remains calm, there's steel underneath it, an implied consequence hanging in the air like smoke. The young men stumble over each other's words, mumbling apologies that sound more like fear than genuine remorse. "Sorry, man. We were just messing around. Didn't mean anything by it. We're leaving now." They're trying to save face even as they retreat, trying to pretend this was all some misunderstanding rather than deliberate cruelty cut short by intervention. The woman biker steps forward, her voice cutting through their excuses like a knife. "You were hurting someone who can't defend himself," she states flatly. "Someone who served this country while you were probably still in diapers. That's not messing around. That's being a coward." The words land like physical blows, and the tall one actually flinches. The one with the tattoo on his neck has tears in his eyes. Whether from shame or fear, Robert can't tell. They're children, really, Robert realizes. Grown bodies but child minds, never taught empathy, never forced to face consequences, never shown that actions have weight and meaning. The bikers don't chase them as they turn and practically run toward the park exit, stumbling over their own feet in their hurry to escape. They don't need to. The lesson has been delivered. The power dynamic completely reversed. Within 30 seconds, the 5 young men have disappeared into the darkness beyond the tree line, swallowed by shadows and their own cowardice. The bikers watch until they're certain the threat has passed. Until the park returns to the peaceful evening place it should have been all along. Then, as one, they turn their attention back to Robert. The lead biker extends his hand to Robert, palm open, offering help without assuming it's needed or wanted. "Can you stand?" he asks, giving Robert the choice, the dignity of deciding for himself. Robert nods and grips the man's forearm, using both his cane and the solid anchor of another human being to pull himself upright. His leg protests with sharp pain, but he manages to get his feet under him, standing properly for the first time since this whole ordeal began. The biker doesn't let go until Robert is steady, until it's clear he won't fall. Up close, Robert can see the patches on the man's vest more clearly. Various locations, various chapters. Symbols that tell the story of miles traveled and brotherhood earned. There's a military patch, too, partially hidden under the leather, an Army Ranger tab that's faded from years and weather. This man knows. He understands in a way that requires no explanation. "You doing all right?" the woman biker asks, stepping closer, but maintaining respectful distance. Her voice has lost its hard edge now that the threat has passed, revealing something warmer underneath. Robert takes a shaky breath and nods, though his hands are still trembling slightly against his cane. "I am now," he says, and manages a small smile that doesn't quite reach his eyes yet. "Thank you. All of you. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't shown up." The lead biker waves this off like it's nothing, like intervening in violence is just what people do. Though Robert knows better. He knows most people would have driven past, would have told themselves it wasn't their business, would have found reasons not to get involved. But these people stopped. They came. They stood between him and harm without hesitation. "We look out for our own," the younger biker with the scarred face says simply. "You're a veteran. That makes you family." He points to Robert's patches, the evidence of service worn openly on his jacket. "Desert Storm, yeah? My old man served in that one. Made it home, but it changed him. Changed a lot of guys." Robert feels something loosen in his chest, some knot of isolation beginning to untangle. These strangers understand more in 5 minutes than most people he encounters understand in 5 years. They see past the disability, past the age, past the surface-level differences. Straight to the core truth. He's a soldier who gave parts of himself that can't be given back, and that matters. That means something. The lead biker reaches into his vest pocket and pulls out a worn business card, pressing it into Robert's hand. "Name's Blake," he says. "You ever need anything? Ride somewhere? Help with groceries? Someone to talk to? Whatever. You call that number. Day or night, doesn't matter. Robert looks down at the card, his vision blurring slightly. The simple act of kindness, of being seen and valued, hits harder than he expected. He's spent so long being invisible, being passed by, being treated like he's already dead and just hasn't laid down yet. This moment, this connection, reminds him that he's still here, still alive, still worth something to somebody. I don't know what to say, he admits. His voice thick with emotion. He's trying hard to control. Blake grips his shoulder firmly. Don't need to say anything. Just take care of yourself. And maybe don't come to the park alone after dark anymore, yeah? It's said gently, not as judgment, but as genuine concern, the kind of practical advice one soldier gives another. Robert nods, knowing the man is right, knowing that tonight could have ended very differently without this intervention. The bikers begin mounting their machines again, the evening's business concluded, their purpose fulfilled. Engines roar back to life one by one, that deep, thunderous sound that now feels protective rather than intimidating to Robert. Before they leave, the woman biker approaches and hands Robert something, a small metal pin shaped like angel wings with a skull in the center. Honorary member, she says with a slight smile. You earned this a long time ago. Just took us a while to find you. Robert closes his fist around the pin, feeling the cool metal press into his palm, solid and real, and his to keep. It's such a small thing, maybe worth $5 in a store, but the meaning behind it, the recognition, the respect, the inclusion, that's priceless. That's everything. Blake raises his hand in a final salute, and Robert returns it automatically, muscle memory from decades ago snapping into place. The gesture passes between them with the weight of shared understanding, of brotherhood that transcends club patches or military branches or any surface-level divisions. Then the motorcycles pull away in formation just as they arrived, their tail lights glowing red in the darkness as they head toward the park exit. The sound of their engines gradually fades, growing softer and more distant, until finally the park returns to its natural quiet. Crickets chirping in the grass, leaves rustling overhead, the gentle hum of distant traffic. But it's a different kind of quiet now. It doesn't feel empty or isolating anymore. It feels peaceful, safe, like the world has remembered that places like this should be sanctuaries, not hunting grounds. Robert stands there for a long moment, cane in one hand, the angel wings pin in the other, just breathing in the cool night air. The scent of grass is stronger now, mixing with the lingering smell of motorcycle exhaust and leather. Above him, the stars seem brighter than they did before, countless points of light scattered across the infinite darkness like promises that even in the blackest night, illumination exists. He thinks about his daughter Amanda, about calling her when he gets home, maybe telling her about tonight, not the scary parts, but the good parts, the reminder that kindness and courage still exist in the world. He thinks about the card in his pocket, about the genuine offer of help and community from people who owe him nothing but gave him everything that mattered. Slowly, carefully, Robert begins the walk toward the park exit, his cane tapping rhythmically against the concrete path. Each step is deliberate, measured, the same way he's taken steps for the past 12 years since his injury. But somehow his leg doesn't hurt quite as much right now. Somehow the weight he's been carrying feels a little lighter. He passes the bench where everything happened, but he doesn't stop or look at it. That moment is over. Finished. Already becoming memory rather than present experience. What remains is the proof that he's not alone. that people still care, that his service and sacrifice weren't meaningless gestures thrown into an uncaring void. As he reaches the park entrance where the streetlights give way to sidewalk, Robert pauses and looks back one final time. The bench sits empty under the oak tree, shadows playing across the grass, everything peaceful and still. Tomorrow, the sun will rise again. Tomorrow, he'll wake up in his small apartment with his aching leg and his limited mobility and all the same challenges that existed before tonight. But tomorrow, he'll also wake up with a business card that represents connection, with a pin that represents belonging, with a memory that represents hope. And maybe, just maybe, he'll pin those angel wings to his jacket right next to his army patch, wearing them openly as a reminder that brotherhood doesn't end when you leave the service, that family can be found in unexpected places, and that even in the darkest moments, sometimes thunder rolls in to chase away the darkness. Robert turns toward home, his footsteps steady and sure, and the night wraps around him, not like a threat, but like a blanket, soft and protective, and full of stars that shine on, patient and eternal, watching over everyone who walks beneath them, especially those who've given everything and asked for nothing in return, who deserve to be seen, to be valued, to be remembered for all the right reasons.